And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. With me, I have Josh Rayner from Merc with a movie blog. Say hello to everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
And tonight is our Scream on Screen reviews. This is part of our Halloween edition movie on Movie Lovers Unite. And tonight we are actually reviewing the 1990s miniseries It. And this movie clocks in at 3 hours and what 40 minutes, I believe, or something like that. Josh.
I think at least the version I was watching, it was 3 hours and 7 minutes is what it was.
3 hours and 7 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
I made it a little bit longer than what it was supposed to. So, yeah. So basically, this movie it sets up in the 1960s. It follows Ben, it follows Beverly, it follows all the Losers Club members and stuff like that. And of course, there's Pennywise, the dancing clown, played by Tim Curry, which is basically his most classic performance aside from what he played in Rocky Horror Picture Show, and of course Home Alone,
Yeah.
Lost in New York, and stuff like that. But to me, as a kid, Tim Curry definitely horrified me as a kid because I remember
Yeah.
having nightmares and also afraid to go use the bathroom because I was afraid
Yeah.
that his hand would pop up out of the toilet and jerk my ass down. So, so yeah. But what stands out when you look at the 1990s it and stuff like that, when you look at it from that standpoint?
I mean, the thing that, anytime I think about that movie, it is Pennywise. Like that just
Mm.
the visual of Tim Curry as that like demonic clown. Anytime someone brings it up, that's what I see. Even I hadn't watched this before watching it for this. I hadn't watched it in probably at least a decade. And so that image is crystal clear in my head, no matter what. So like it stayed with me. So but it was real nice to get back to kind of see what it was all about again, whether or not it actually held up.
Right, and it's actually interesting now to go back and look at it. It's streaming on HBO Max, in case anybody's wondering if they want to go back and do a revisit or a rewatch of it in from the 1990s version. This is probably close to the book than what we got with the movie with the remake, but as far as cohesiveness, as far as structure goes, I feel like the remake is better than the 1990s version, and
Yes.
that's me coming that's being born in the 80s and also being grown up with the 90s version and stuff like that. Yes, I love Tim Curry's performance, but you can even
Mm-hmm.
tell that there's some loss of cohesiveness within the movie itself because, like we were talking earlier, Josh, when you look at the flashbacks and stuff like that, it just doesn't hold together whenever it flashes back from the kids over to the adults and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't play that out in the remake because I feel like in the remake they got that right with just focusing in on the kids and then add the adults in later with the flashbacks of them being kids. I think that added in a lot more to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting a chance to, in the remakes to see the journey of the kids just straight through, you get this full movie of them. And then, because I had just recently watched the remakes, and then watching this one, you get maybe 40 minutes of the over 3 hours with the kids. And the majority of it is spent with the adults. And it's just like, it felt like they rushed through the stuff with the kids way too much. And on the note of Pennywise, he's only in the movie for like Tim Curry is only in the movie for like 15 minutes of this whole thing. It's
Right.
really he's barely actually even in it, and that bummed me out when I watched it. I was like, he is the best part of this movie, and I wanted more of him, but we didn't. The first half of the movie is all just character setup,
It
and
definitely is.
it's so slow, but it also felt like it was rushed. I don't know. It was weird because, like I said, it's slow, but it feels like it was rushed, and it's like 3 hours long. I don't know what was going on with this whole thing.
I don't know either, to be honest with you. I remember also too Blockbusters back when I was a kid too. They had this to rent, and it was like a double VHS tape as well.
Yes.
And I rented that. I
Just
rented
like
it again.
Titanic.
Yes. And man, I mean, I feel like this. I feel like that it just doesn't hold up like it was supposed to, and we'll get into that.
No.
Because here's the thing, like you said, it doesn't primarily focus on the kids like we wanted to focus on the kids or anything like that. And of course, uh, Tim Curry's character Pennywise doesn't is only in there maybe for 10, 15 minutes, if that, within the movie itself. It doesn't
Yeah.
primarily focus on Pennywise or anything. At least with the remake, it focused in on Pennywise and the origins of Pennywise in the first half of that film, with Ben researching in the library, which is something that I liked from the very first film. And this one, and even Mike actually does do research in the book, so it's actually Mike that actually finds
Yeah.
out the origins of it and everything. So they got that part right in the 1990s version, and they changed it up with Ben, which I feel like it fits Ben's character in the remake
Yeah.
because of the fact that he's an architect, and
Hmm.
him studying structure, him studying history actually fits in with that character versus
Yeah.
them not doing that in the 1990s version and letting it hang on Mike. And Mike's also the new guy in town, of course, in the
Yeah.
1990s one. But you know, I do like I do like the chemistry with all the kids in the 1990s movie. Though I thought the chemistry was really good, especially with Seth Green being in it
Yeah, yeah,
as
he was
Richie.
great. I forgot he was in this movie, and then like his name popped up. I was like, oh, all right. It was nice to see him in there. And yeah, the stuff with the kids. I think the stuff with the kids is better than the stuff with the adults,
Yeah,
and there's way less of it, and that was really disheartening. Because like you said, the chemistry between the kids was fantastic. I mean, the adults were fine, but
it just didn't
it
have
just
that
didn't
flavor.
click. Yeah, it didn't click the same way as it did with the kids. And yeah,
Yeah, because here's the thing. Another thing that I want to mention is this, though, too. With the kids, it's always been my favorite thing. I always say this: the first half of the 1990s, it is perfectly well done in a sense. Yes, it feels like it's rushed a little bit, but that's actually one of my favorite things was the kids part because of the
yeah,
fact that the chemistry's there. There's something lurking in the source. There's something lurking, and they have to try to investigate it. And then, of course, they find out this being that can shapeshift into their fears and stuff, and that's something that I was actually included into and things like that. And matter of fact, I remember reading the book in high school as well, and and I remember being spooked out in basically whenever I was reading it. But another thing that I had against it was when I was reading the commentary. Well, not reading the commentary, but listening to the commentary on the DVD. The director never read the book or anything.
oh
So
jeez,
yeah, so he admitted it. He goes, I don't even know what this movie what it is even about. So they got a
oh my,
director that didn't even know the property. So they just, I bet he just had like little notes that somebody gave him and just
yeah,
went based off of the notes and designed it that way.
yeah,
But that's like a little nitpicky thing that I had about it. But as far as again the character structure, right, for Pennywise, I thought that was good, and the characterization with the characters with the kids and the banter with them, especially with Richie telling jokes and then Beth.
yeah,
It's very relatable, though. I do have to say. I mean, I like how Stephen King's able to give us relatable characters, like Beth going through the stuff with her dad, who's a drunkard, who mentally and physically probably abuses her, and then also too,
yeah,
you go with Ben, who's being bullied for being fat, and then you also have other racial issues in this film as well. We're going to get to that too, but
yeah.
still, I mean, I thought that the kids is actually my favorite part. I felt like the second half was Tim Curry doing jokes the whole time, and it
Yeah,
felt more
some
like
of
a comedy.
they did way too much like corny clown jokes, like where he's doing the like, you got Prince Albert in a can. There's like that whole string of those like cheesy jokes that you know, as your refrigerator running, those types of things that he did. And I'm just like, this is just kind of lame. Like, why are they doing this? Everything else that he was doing up to that point, I was like, okay, I dig what he's doing. But I don't know. I just did not like that part for him, at least.
Same, but I did like the blood splatter in the balloons. I thought that added the horror
Yeah,
element to it. But
yeah,
come on, doing the jokes and stuff like that. It felt like Nightmare on Elm Street after a while with Freddy doing the jokes and the banter with the jokes. It
yeah.
felt like it was like hitting me over the head with it, and that was the
Hmm.
most annoying part of it. Chapter 2. That's what I'm going to call it for the 1990s version as well. But you know, the thing that scared me was the fact that it can pop out of the drain
Yeah,
and while you're taking a shower, and then I like how they use this animation kind of style kind of flavor to it. And basically what winds up happening is he pops out of the drain, and I'm like, ooh, okay, so that tells me that I'm not even, to be honest,
Yeah, you're not safe
you know.
anywhere. Not anywhere. Yeah, yeah. Everything that they did with him, for the most part, like I said, was good. I really enjoyed Tim Curry's stuff, and they did for the time make him fairly frightening. I feel like I'm probably very desensitized at this age, as someone who has watched hundreds, if not thousands, of horror movies. So it really didn't scare me at all. Now I remember as a kid it did,
Right.
like a lot of that stuff, but yeah, it didn't anymore. But and yeah, the blood effects, I liked a lot of that stuff, like the balloon coming out of the sink and just like
Yeah.
the blood just exploding all over Bev's bathroom, and then she cleans it all up and it happens again. I like those effects. Um, and then the Chinese restaurant scene with the fortune
Yeah.
cookies, like there was really good effects in this movie that I really enjoyed. That really kind of brought the horror into play, even though there was just way too much talking going on throughout most of this movie.
Yeah, I think if it had that James Wan kind of flavor to it, where
Yeah,
you drop the dialogue a little bit, you have that. Yeah, it could be a slow pace kind of film, but let the surrounding be the storytelling versus the characters doing the storytelling, and have that
yeah,
slow tension there. And then once that tension's there, and then release it at the end, it could actually have been a better film, in my
yeah.
opinion, because I feel like they wasted too much setup with the flashbacks.
Yeah. Oh,
Really,
yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, it takes them like an hour just to introduce us to all the characters, and I'm just like,
right.
why is it taking so long? Like, I want to actually spend some quality time with these characters, and we don't really get that.
No,
And like
because
Mike
right.
gets screwed in the end because like the entire third act, he's in the hospital. He doesn't even get to be part of it, which is something I liked about the reboot. Is like he's part of it. He's not the one who gets stabbed, but even though someone else gets stabbed, they're still doing stuff. They're still there with them. So I that's what I liked about that.
Same here
That
as
that part
well.
of it. Yeah,
Because Mike did get screwed over in this 1990s version. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I
yeah,
thought that they were all gonna try and face it together, and then Mike is kind of like on the sidelines. Is like, okay, guys, well, I did go down to the store. I went down there. Here, I found this, and that was
yeah,
and found the stones that killed it before, and it can kill it again. And so basically, it's like, okay, have fun. I'm just gonna lay
yeah.
here for a
And I'll be
while.
honest, the whole oh, here's some silver earrings from my mom. They'll work because we believe they'll work. I'm just like, wow, everything just kind of worked out way too easily. I feel, you know,
Definitely.
like
It,
she hits him in the head with this thing. Boom. Okay, he's gone. They hit him. They at the end they hit the spider version of him in the stomach with it. Oh, okay, it's done. Like that's it. That's all they had to do.
Right.
I
And
could do
the
that.
right, especially in the here's the thing with the remake though. In the remake it made him more OP, more overpowered a little bit to where they can
Yeah.
fight him. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that because you have a one-on-one battle with the losers
Yeah.
club and stuff
Yeah,
like
and
that.
you're almost not sure if they're gonna win in the remake because it's like he is so powerful. It's like almost seems like he can't be defeated, and that's what I liked about that one.
Same here as well. And then, in the book as well with Mike finding the stones, they actually go into detail of him going back
Oh,
and
okay.
get and they go him going back into the sewer, and it's I want to say it's like a flashback scene. It's been a while since I've read this book, and so he basically goes in the sewer, and basically you have of course the leader of the losers club, Bill. He says, are you sure that he goes, look, I made sure he was sleeping before I went and went down there, and he was sleeping, but these are the stones, remember, these are the stones that Bev had, and one of them missed. And I picked up, and I
Yeah,
found another one on the ground. So there's two of them. One hit him in the head.
yeah,
So therefore, they were able to use the same stones that they had before. But I liked how they did it differently. With this one, it's more of a little bit more an updated type of way of actually killing it. this go around compared to what we had with the slingshot.
Yeah.
Um, but let's talk about Bowers for a minute. I thought Bowers
Mhm.
in this one was a lot more threatening.
Yeah, I mean, this dude is legit ready to just murder all these kids, like without question. He is like, it's not hyperbole with him. He's going to murder these kids if he gets the chance. I'm just like, wow, they really went. He's like a sociopath in
He
this.
definitely is.
Yeah.
Because, he's not your average bully on the playground
Oh.
or anything like that either. He's going to try and kill you. He's going to figure out a way to kill you,
Mhm.
and that's it. You're dead. If he sees you, he's going to kill you. And I felt like he was more threatening in this movie compared to the remake in a sense, because
Yeah.
that's one thing I have to say that the 1990s version got right was the fact of how dangerous Henry Bowers is and how menacing he is
Yeah.
compared to how he was in the remake. That's the only thing I had against the remake was he wasn't to me that threatening of a high school bully. This one was racist. He used the N word. He
Mhm.
called the other kid a you know but still I'm not going to say the word or anything like that,
Yeah.
but you get the gist of it. He ended up calling him on names that are uncalled for, and it dealt with racial issues. It dived into Henry's whole entire background of who Henry is and how dangerous he is. With this one, it's like, oh, I'm just a high school bully and I want these kids dead, but there's nothing else there holding it there to show why he wants them dead. And this one, it shows him bullying them, terrorizing them, and also too showing how it is trying to use him to kill these kids. And also too, he also does the same thing in the remake, but it seems like to me with this one, it used him in the right way in this one
Yeah.
compared to the remake.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like even his friends are like, dude, you're going too far with some of this stuff. So
You're
like
right.
even they recognize that this guy's like psychotic, he ain't right in the head. So, and I think they did a great job of portraying that in this one.
I think so too. And also too, the other thing I have to say with the remake as well, they gave us a little bit more of a background of who Henry Bowers' life is, and that's something I
Yeah.
do appreciate the fact that they gave us a background of who he is, who his father is, and things like that. And this one, you don't really get that. This is primarily just focused in on the kids, which is something that I appreciated with this one as well. And so, and then another thing I liked was the photo album. Whenever the Bill winds up finding the photo album, and it flip flops back and forth
Yeah.
and everything, and it shows Georgie and he winks, and I'm like, those special effects were ahead of its time in a sense, if you think
Oh
about it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they did a great job with those. I love that scene. I just love because like in 1990, I feel like yeah, like you said, this movie's a bit ahead of its time. Uh, you get this, especially if you had never read the book, you don't know what is going on. Why are these people not able to see all the stuff that they're seeing? And just the ability for them to pull off specific effects like that. I don't know. It did. It kind of blew my mind because I was like, yeah, I believe that. It still felt believable. Everything that a lot of the effects that they were doing. It didn't feel fake for a lot of them, which I was surprised by.
Same here as well. It felt very real. It feels like a realistic realism kind of way of actually doing it. Then
Yeah.
also too, when it is in that black and white photo, Pennywise is doing the front flips and everything and the back flips, and he goes up to the light fixture and haunts Beverly and the Losers Club and everybody, and then he reaches his hand out of there.
Yeah.
That gave me goosebumps still to this day on that part.
Yeah.
That part didn't feel cheesy to me when it came
Yeah.
down to
No.
that aspect.
Yeah. I forgot about that part, and so it like surprise shocked me. I was like, whoa, okay. Like when I saw that, and I was like, all right, that's some good stuff here. But then you go back to the adults, and it just kind of all turns around. You
Right.
know.
I just feel
That's
like the chemistry with the adults is very wooden
yeah.
to me. There's
Yeah.
no chemistry. There's nothing. They're trying to do it the best way they could possibly can with reading it from the script onto the screen, and it's just
Yeah.
not working. It's just not jiving up the way that it needs to jive up. And even in the scene in the Chinese restaurant, I didn't feel like, oh, I missed my best friends. It was like hey, remember da 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 da? At least with the other ones, I like the banter with Richie in the remake, smack talking with Eddie and
Yeah.
everything. That was perfect placement. That was perfect characterization of characters. And then of course you see Bill and Mike hanging out on this one with the bike and everything, and then of course you have that 1960s music being played and stuff like that with from Motown.
Yeah.
And I guess what they're trying to do, they're trying to recapture those moments of being in the 60s whenever they were building the fort and stuff,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't work. Same thing whenever he sees the cards, and I'm like, okay, you mean to tell me that's all it did was basically put his own self as a logo on a card for the bicycle
Yeah.
cards?
Like that's it? That's all you're gonna do? Like, seems like a lot of work just for that guy.
Right.
Okay. And like he put the two aces out for whatever reason. Like, okay. Thanks, Pennywise.
I didn't
Didn't.
understand that.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. I was. It just seemed unnecessary. They could have done something cool, like the cards could have like flown around and done something crazy. I don't know.
I think that the cards could have floated around, or they could have done something more with it, or have Pennywise on a
Like,
bike with the cards
yeah,
flipping, or something.
yeah. Like you hear that noise in the background, and then
Yeah,
they just see Pennywise is like coming at him on a bike. Yeah, that would be
right.
kind of cool. I would love that.
That would have been horrifying to actually see. But I also like when Bill gets into town, and I like how Pennywise dug up the holes. And now I thought
Mhm.
that was pretty horrifying to see. I thought that
Yeah.
aspect worked
Oh yeah.
because pick a hole, any hole, but that one's taken. And
Yeah.
I thought to myself, okay, so you guys are at this restaurant. You don't see Stan there. Then it doesn't take until you guys get over to the library where you see Stan's head in in that refrigerator. And I'm thinking to myself, Bill, you knew he wasn't alive because there was a plot that was already buried for him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, how do you not know that Stan is dead at that point?
Yeah, I mean, Pennywise is literally telling you. He's telling you that he killed this guy, and they're not paying attention. I think
But
they're still too out of it. I don't know.
exactly. But I want to tell everybody this little story though of me reading the book. In the book, Stan is actually going into that little sewer area where the sewage place is, and you know he's hearing carnival music. It's dark and stuff like that. And at that time, I was actually a janitor working in the hospital, and he's hearing carnival music. And I'm reading the book. I'm reading along with it. I'm putting up my mop bucket, and then just whenever it says the door closes behind Stan, all of a sudden the door shuts behind me, and I'm flipping out trying to open the door and everything. And then, of course, my coworkers, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Nothing. I just there was some trouble with the door." So, like,
That's
okay,
fantastic. I
yeah,
love
that's how you know Stephen
it.
King is great at what he does when it comes
Mhm.
down to his literature. If it can scare you, he's doing his job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the his books are phenomenal. Like the movie adaptations are hit or miss. They really
Right.
are. But yeah, the stuff that he writes is just out of this world, man. Apparently, most of his books, he dreams the idea. Like they come to him in dreams. I'm like, I would not want to have those dreams, man. Like I don't know how you live that life, but he puts out some good stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
he even admitted though to himself. He said that his dreams even terrify him
yeah.
as well, and so that goes to show you how much drugs he probably has to be on and be sedated to write.
Right? Seriously.
But
Yeah.
yeah, another thing that I want to mention is this too. Um, the production company for this film for Green SBN Productions, it was filmed over a period of 3 months in New Western British Columbia in mid 90s with a budget of $12 million
Hmm.
and doubled the usual television budget. The effects and the designs of the forms, including Pennywise and the creature's true form of a humanoid spider, were produced on a 12-week deadline.
Oh wow.
So that's a little fun fact on that.
Interesting. Hmm. So something I wanted to ask you, so as you are someone who has read the books, I know that because like I looked up this fact whether or not it was accurate for the book. In the book and in the reboot, it's every 27 years he returns, but in this movie, it's every 30, and I don't understand why they chose that. Like
Okay,
it kind of bothered me knowing that it's supposed to be 27, that they just made it this round number to be 30, and I was like, why?
okay. So in the book, there's a whole chapter just on the town history,
Yeah,
and once the town, that's another thing. That's a little nitpicky thing I'm going to get to too with part two. The town history stuff was butchered in the second half of this film. I feel like
yeah,
the reboot, they actually explained that a lot better. But here's the thing: I'm thinking with it being 30 years later, it actually fits in with the timeline. Because here's
okay,
the thing: think of it like this, and I actually did the math on it whenever the films first starting production. From the 1960s to 1990, that's basically 30 years.
yeah,
So they're trying to fit it in with a timeline between 1960 and 1990. With this one, they're trying to fit in from the 1980s to the 2 years to 2016 or 17, whenever the film was made. So there's a
yeah.
30-year gap if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I get
So,
that. They could have just set the opening in like 1963 then, you know what I mean? And then it
right.
would have been 27 years. I don't know, it just bothered me that they just made that change. Cuz like it's not like they went 40 years, which would be a huge difference. It was just they added 3 years to round it off. I'm just like it felt unnecessary. I don't know.
Well, let's see. With the 80s, I can actually understand it because they're actually trying to make it more relatable to people that are around our age and stuff like that, and have that
Yeah.
30-year period to where it fits in with the timeline and things like that. So I can understand it from that perspective.
Yeah.
So it didn't really bother me that much or anything like that. I figured, okay, you know what? They're just trying to put this in into a timeline to where it's beneficial for the audience to actually understand and where it's coming from. So I was okay with that. That part didn't really bother me as much or anything. It was the let's see. I feel like when Fandango gave us that little clip with the old lady when she was transforming into it, they shouldn't have showed us that. I get the fact that
Yeah.
they're because at
They
that point
spoiled that whole scene and it bothered me that they did that. That's a good scene, man.
it definitely
Like,
is, but it bothered me. So I'm like, pee break. I got up
mm,
and left.
gotcha. Yeah.
And my aunt and
Yeah,
uncle
you
who were
already knew it was
visiting,
gonna happen, so
right? My aunt and uncle just look at me because they're visiting from Boston, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "It's. I saw this on the internet. I'm gonna go take a pee break. I'll be right back." So,
I guess it worked out in that sense then.
right. But still, I wish I wouldn't have seen that. I get the fact that we're gonna see the transformation of the woman again
Yeah.
being played out in the remake, especially whenever it happens in the book and it also happens in the 1990s version. But I didn't want to see the newness of what we were going to get with the remake.
Yeah.
You know, I was perfectly fine if they did like an over, if they wanted to talk about the town history, just have it explaining the town history from his perspective and having a voice over the town
Okay. Yeah.
and everything and have it that way instead of having to have the old lady, well, first him being the clown, trying to transform into the clown, and then to the old lady and all that. I didn't really feel like they needed to have that. I feel like
Yeah.
if they do a trailer, do it in the right way, in the right context of just surprising us and have something hidden for us
Yeah.
and everything.
Like maybe they really all I needed to see was like Bev sitting down with the old lady, and you're like, oh, I know what's gonna happen, but then I don't need to see it until I go see the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that would have been like I would have preferred that instead of them giving us that whole scene, because that was something that always bothered me was that they just gave that whole scene away for the reboot.
Same
Yeah,
here. Now, what did you think of the 1990s version of that whole sit down with the old lady and stuff like that, and Bev's tea turns to blood?
it was far less. It was far more tame than I was like remembering or expecting. Because again, I had just watched the reboot, and I hadn't seen this one in so long. I honestly didn't remember most of like the bits like that happened. So like I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, and it just felt real tame. I don't know. It felt like I don't know. It could have been more horrifying in some way, and it probably was at that time for me when I was a kid. I probably did feel like it was, but as an adult, after seeing the reboot and everything, it just didn't hit as well as I was hoping it would.
Same here. I mean, even as a kid, I didn't really like that scene. Never really gave me nightmares or anything like that. It didn't really horrify me as a kid.
Yeah,
It was just the balloon bouncing beside Beverly
yeah,
and laughing. That part horrified me more than that, to be honest.
yeah,
But other than that, it didn't really do anything to me. And then even with the werewolf scene with Richie, that it looks kind of corny now looking back
yeah.
at it.
And it's so fast, like it's barely covered. Yeah, you don't get much of it, and that was another. I was real bummed about that. I wanted more, you know, because like that's what I love about the reboot. They were eight because like, it's essentially 5 hours between the two movies, and they
Right.
were able to stretch these things out that they rushed in the original. So
Right. And then also too I like the when it is actually pretending to be Beverly and
yes,
with John Ritter as Ben,
yeah.
and because my hair is winter fire, and then all of a
It's
sudden he's
funny because like
kissing.
I'm watching this scene, not remembering what's about to happen, and I literally I grabbed my iPad because I'm taking notes on it, and I'm like I start typing. Why the hell? If she remembers that it's Ben, why was she making out with Bill at the beginning? And then it
Right.
happened. I was like, oh, that's why, because it's not her.
Right. And then, I like how they do a callback to it in the reboot, though, because your hair is
Yeah,
winter fire, then Beverly's hair is on fire.
yeah,
So, I like how they use like a little dark humor in it, but it's not really forced humor and
yeah,
stuff like that with the remake or anything. But I thought that was fine. Um, but still, I really feel like they missed a lot of missed opportunities when it came down to this film. Like I said before, the commentary track, the guy never read the book or anything like that, so he probably just got some cliff notes and just went off from that.
yeah,
But I feel like if he would have took his time and, it's a 1,179 page book. I'm not expecting that director to read the whole thing.
yeah. But you know
But
what? If you're making the kind of money that people like that make to make movies, I mean, read the book. Like, I'd be more than happy to make that money and read the book. You
right,
know what I mean?
true,
More
true.
than happy.
But at least get some of this more of the source material to where you can use it. For instance,
Yeah.
Beverly hides in a refrigerator in the junkyard, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you see. And I'm just paraphrasing. I'm not going for verbatim or anything like that because it's been so long since I read the book. But I remember there was a junkyard scene. Bev is outside hanging around the junkyard or something. Well, she runs away from Henry Bowers. She hides in the refrigerator, and then as she's leaving, and she sees them walking away, there's Henry and them come back and they open up the refrigerator because they think that Bev's in there. Next thing you know, you see these heads that are shaped like Pennywise, and it happens to be hornets chasing after Henry Bowers and that. And I love that. I wish they would have actually put that into the remake.
That would have been a cool scene in either movie. It really would. Yeah. That would have been awesome.
I think so too. I
Yeah.
think if they played it well, I think they could have actually timed it a little bit and got rid of maybe one or two different scenes and added that in
Yeah.
there. It would have been
Yeah.
perfect. But you know how I said that I like the whole the whole entire deal where with the photograph. I like the
Yeah.
slideshow in the reboot. I thought that was a new way of us doing that
Hmm. Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah. I, the reboot, at least the first part, I came out of it being like, I wasn't really scared. It was really good, but I wasn't really scared. That was one of the ones that kind of got me, was that slideshow scene.
that. Yeah,
So yeah, I really like that one.
that one gave me goosebumps coming out of the
Hmm.
theater. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, and then also too the part where he's coming out of the refrigerator, which to me can actually pay a little bit of an homage to the book a little bit with the hornets.
yeah,
But when I saw the refrigerator, I'm thinking, is this going to be the scene with the hornets?
mm,
Because they could have used it in that particular scene. But to see
yeah.
Pennywise come out of it like in that kind of scene, I loved it. I thought it worked
Hmm.
for the character.
I
For me,
mean, they could have literally had Hornets come out also as he came out. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, just throw that in there if they'd wanted to, and I would have been totally cool with it. I think it would have worked.
I think so too. But like you mentioned though, with the 1990s version, whenever, of course, in the sewer part, I felt like he was weak. It was way too weak and stuff like that. when he should have
Yeah.
been overpowering these kids and stuff like that, especially when you've been wanting to eat their souls for a long time and then you're not
Yeah.
doing anything.
Yeah. Both times they fought him, he just kind of stands there as Bev's like shooting at him. And I'm like, you're supposed to be this like fairly all powerful type of entity. Yeah, you're just gonna, especially the second time, like, you know what could happen. You've been through this before. Why, like, as this giant spider creature, why the heck are you just standing there letting her shoot stuff? Because she misses one. At that point, he should have been like lunging at them to come and get them. You know what I mean?
Or
Shouldn't have let her get a second shot.
at least kill Stan. You know,
Yeah, just like get it over with.
right? Because he's been terrorizing Stan more than the other kids because Stan was the weakest link out of the kids. So it made more sense for him to kill Stan at an early age than before the other Losers Club members.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do anything. He just goes, "I'm the eater of worlds. I will
Yeah.
hunt your dreams." And that's actually straight from the book, though. That's the dialogue straight from the book. And then they
Okay.
use it again in the remake, which is something I'm really appreciative of because now they're actually doing homage to Tim Curry's It, but also to making it stand on its own with Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really did appreciate from that. But you know, I loved the reboot of It over this one,
Yeah.
and it's no fault for the 1990s. I mean, it is what it is. They tried everything they could when it came down to this. Uh, Even with the giant spider, even though that's in the book as well,
Yeah.
but but there should have been a slower process to getting there.
Yeah, because I was looking up trivia because I didn't realize this as I was watching it. But you don't see Tim Curry for the last 15 minutes of that movie. There's like a flashback where you see a scene that we had already seen, but there's nothing new with him in like the last 15 minutes at all. It's just the spider. So like Pennywise is there, but Tim Curry's not. And I'm like, man, that really sucks.
It
Because I
does.
would have loved to have seen him at one more time at the end there.
It really does if you think about it, because it's like, oh, you think you could still see me? I'm dead. I'm like, then what the point? What's the point of you terrorizing these kids if you're dead?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you transform into this giant spider that's been feeding on all these kids for over years and everything in the 90s, and it just doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. It falls flat on its face.
Yeah. And
Um,
like I I don't like was it Audra, whatever. I think it's
uh,
Audra.
yeah, Audra.
I don't like I didn't care for that storyline either. I was like, what was the point? Like Bill didn't even know she was in there until he saw her.
Right,
It's like, so it's not like Pennywise was using her to lure Bill.
right.
So I didn't understand the point of it. I'm glad they didn't do that in the reboot. So I was like, it just seemed pointless to me.
Right. And in the book, they actually do that. They do that same
Yeah.
thing. They use her, but then they also use the abusive douchebag, ball bag boyfriend of Beverly's. And
Okay.
yeah, they actually do that. He actually goes in the sewer where Beverly and them are at. So you have this whole entire scene being played out while the drains are actually being flooded and things like that. He's going into the sewer. Not only that, but he also steals a car, switches the license plates to get to where they're at.
Huh. Okay.
There's a little bit of an NCIS kind of feel or CSI kind of deal where basically like a detective kind of thing where he's switching out license plates. I forgot the reason why behind it, but I remember it being played out at the same time as them being in the sewer where not the license plate switching, but him being in the sewer with them
Yeah.
and stuff like
Okay.
that. I would have liked to
Interesting.
see that in a sense to see how that would have been played out.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been, I feel like, more interesting at least, because it would have caused a little bit of drama or something would have been going on. But the whole thing with Audra, it just
No,
didn't. It just, I was like, I don't. Why do I care? I
exactly.
just don't care about her character at all.
Her character is very wooden and very
Hmm.
dry. It
Yeah.
doesn't fit in with what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And also too, I liked how they used Bill in this one too, because it's kind of reflecting on Stephen King as a
Hmm.
writer.
Yeah.
Because remember, he goes, "I'd rather be here than dealing with the Hollywood cliche of what they're doing to my films."
Yeah.
And I feel like that's Stephen King saying, you know what, I'm gonna let my property be my property, and I'm gonna let them do their thing because
Yeah,
that's Hollywood, and that's
yeah.
what I feel like. And
And he has been he has not been shy about vocalizing when he does not like a film
no,
adaptation. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, he does like to put a lot of writers though in his books and stuff. So
that's
he
very
likes,
true.
yeah.
But I also like how the reboot kind of does that too, where
Mhm.
basically, everyone's like, well, your book was good, but the ending sucked.
Yeah.
So it's a reflection on us as fans who reads his properties who doesn't like the ending.
Hmm.
And then he's even making fun of his own self because he's saying that the ending sucked.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like how he's making fun of his own self and has a good humor about making fun of his own self
Yeah.
in that cameo appearance. And my aunt looked at me and she goes, so is there any Stephen King books that you feel like had a bad ending? I said, yeah, there's been a couple. And there's one book that I felt like it didn't go anywhere. And
Yeah.
it's called Elevation.
Okay.
And Elevation sucked. And everything. It's a little short novella book where a guy
Oh,
is losing,
okay.
and the guy is losing weight. We don't know why he's losing weight. And then all of a sudden he's in this little small town. He lives in this little small town and everything.
Is it the
And
one that Thinner is based on?
no, this is nothing.
Oh, okay.
This is not connected with Thinner, but they
Okay.
don't even tell us why he's losing weight
Oh,
at all. Next thing you know, he loses enough weight to the point where he dies, and
huh.
they put a balloon on him and makes him float up to the sky.
That's weird.
I'm like, this book sucks.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Sure. I wonder
whatever.
how much LSD King was on when he wrote that book.
And it's actually pretty recent though, because remember he's supposed to be sober, but that one doesn't feel like he was
Oh
sober.
yeah. He like fell off the wagon, wrote a book, got back on.
Right.
He's like, here you go. Elevation. Enjoy. Skinny guy floats away in a
That's right.
balloon.
Right.
Horror
Why is he
version of Up.
exactly? Why is he losing? I don't know. There's
Yeah.
no, but still, I felt
Just
like that
is.
felt up. Yeah,
Okay.
but um, but for you though, I mean, what else can you? What else? What can you say about the this film though?
Well, a couple of notes that I hadn't touched on yet. I love how like deep into the '80s wardrobe they went in the modern time, the current time, I
Mm,
guess, because this film was 1990, so everything was still '80s at
right.
that point, and so you get like those bright colors. That was like the first thing I noticed when I started when I turned it on. I was like, man, these clothes are real '80s. Everything going
Yeah.
on here is real '80s. I think I covered most of everything else that I wanted to talk about. Um, just how slow yet long this movie was. Uh, too much, too much character. I don't want to say too much character development, but I feel like it's just more too much focus on setup
Hmm.
in the first half of the film, and I think it should have been because like this was a 2-part miniseries. It should have been 3. I
Right.
think because like the Langoliers and things like that, they would do it over 3 nights. I think this should have been one of those where you got 3 2-hour portions, and they could have really dove into some stuff, and that probably would have been better. They could have fleshed out some of these things, and I don't think it would have felt as rushed. Probably would have gotten to spend more time with the kids because I loved the stuff with the kids.
Same
Absolutely,
here.
it was fantastic, and I wanted more of that. So, but yeah, to me it just doesn't quite hold up the way it did when I was like probably 10 or 12 or whenever, however old I was when I actually watched it for the first time.
Same here as well. It definitely doesn't hold up the way that I remembered it. And also, too, I wish they would actually gave us some more meat to digest when it comes down to the town history. Just show us
Yeah.
from the town history of Derry, because I would love to see that. And back when I think it was Castle Rock, the TV series on
Hmm.
Hulu, before they canceled it, I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? After I saw the reboot of it, I was like, well, there were talks about sequels, prequels, stuff like that. I thought to myself, I was like, no, I don't think that would work. I said, hold up. What about a prequel, but not in the big screen way? What happens if it's on Hulu in the Castle Rock universe? and
Interesting.
they turned it into an episodic It vibe, where it's just
Yeah.
focused on it with the Derry of the background of Derry. You forget about the Tim Robbins stuff. You forget about all that stuff. Now they're telling us the story of the history of Derry and the way things were in Derry before the Losers Club.
I dig that. Maybe like do it almost anthology style where like we can
Right.
kind of travel back every 27 years or whatever and just see how he just
Evolved.
messes with the
Right.
whole town each time. That actually, I would watch that. I would watch
Exactly.
that.
Because there's even scenes where a bar burns down and
Yeah.
it is involved with the burning of the buildings
Yeah.
and stuff like that too. I wanted to see that play
Yeah.
out. There's a lot of the town history because basically whenever you get into the adult stuff in the book, there's nothing but a chapter just on the history
Oh, okay.
that Mike is actually reading. And I forgot how many pages that it was, but I felt like I was just eating it up through the whole entire time because I like
Okay.
history. That's one of my favorite things is history.
Yeah.
So, and I was just eating that part up, and I felt like it would actually work in a Castle Rock kind of flavor, but they canceled the series. I wish that Netflix or Amazon would pick it up because I think it has a lot of, to be honest with you, I think it has a way of actually telling different stories within the Stephen King universe.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I think that would be good.
because here's the thing, I like the second season over the first season. The first
Yeah.
season was just basically Shawshank Redemption Part 2.
Oh, that sounds cool. All right.
In a
I
sense,
love
but
Shawshank, so.
right, basically in the modern time, if you think about it, especially the
Okay.
events that happens within all the corruption that happens in Shawshank, they actually talk about in the first season, and that's
Oh,
actually
okay.
what it's based off of. The second one is basically a mixed Pet Cemetery, Cujo a little bit with the Easter eggs from that, but also too, it's mostly centered on Misery,
Oh, wow. Okay.
the Annie story, and
Yeah.
it gives you a background of Annie and her daughter because she actually has a daughter
Oh.
in this series, and basically it's her and her mom go hiding out on the run because she always gets in trouble and she poses as a nurse because she was never actually a nurse.
Mm.
So it's her and her daughter hiding out in this little small
Oh.
town called Castle Rock.
Okay. I gotta watch this show. I never I remember hearing about it. And I was like, this sounds cool, but I never got around to watching it. I think you just sold me on that, man.
I'm glad,
So,
man, because seriously, the second season is probably the best one because I
yeah.
didn't really care for the Shawshank stuff with the first season,
Okay.
so I just skipped the first season, went into the second season because really, you don't need to know what happened in the first one to get it. But Bill
Okay.
Skarsgård does play a little bit of a cameo role
I
in
remember
the
hearing about that. Yeah.
but he's not it. He's just another guy who winds up being in the prison cell that they find locked up in this hole, and they're trying to figure out how he got in the hole, what happened with that. There's a bunch of corruption within the Shawshank prison still, even after Tim Robbins escapes, and that other person winds up being arrested for being
Mm.
corrupt.
Okay.
So if you love Shawshank, you're gonna like the first season.
Yeah, I do. It's in my top 5.
I
So
love Shawshank. I love
yeah.
Shawshank Redemption. I just didn't care for that storyline for the TV side, but the Misery side and the Annie side, I liked.
All right. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out then.
Yeah, check it
Cool.
out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to cover as far as the 1990s version and stuff like that. I know we did a lot of comparison back and forth with the reboot, but I feel like it was necessary to talk
Yeah, I
about the
feel like it's
reboot.
hard not to, because it's so recent and it's so much better.
Definitely. And another thing I want to say is I'm glad that they added, even though this is not in the book, but I'm glad that they added the mirror scene in the remake
Oh yeah,
with the haunted
house
house.
the House of Mirrors.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good scene, man.
Yes.
That's a real
I,
good scene.
I thought that they did a good job with that one with the remake and adding something different.
Yeah.
And also, too, I don't know if you remember on Clyde or Live, Josh McCouga talked about how on his way to work or on his way home, there was actually a House of Mirrors and everything that was mostly promoted for it,
Okay.
for it Chapter 2. And there was that fun
Yeah.
house. And I was like, well, did you go inside? He goes, hell no.
Sounds about right. Yep. Sounds about right.
Alex from A Town Reviews, he says, that scene made me cry.
It's a good scene.
Yes. And by the way, Alex will be on the show next week on the 18th. We're going to be doing our Trick or Treat review.
Ooh, I still
And
got to
everything.
watch that movie, man.
That's my first time seeing it.
Everybody talks about how good it is. I don't know why I haven't watched it. I'm sure I'll love it. I got to get around to it.
Let me try and sell you a little bit more on it because it's on HBO Max as well. That's where you can
Okay.
stream that at. And that's how I've watched it. But think of it as a shared universe of Trick or Treat. Because while one character is going through other stuff, and it actually takes place a couple of hours before someone dies in the beginning of the film, you actually are introduced to other characters as they're passing by.
Oh,
So
okay.
each character is going through different things within that town. And then
Interesting.
so I like that concept of an anthology kind of film based off
Yeah.
of other characters that are passing through, which is something that I wish Stranger Things would have done. Where, yes, season one you wrapped up with 11, and then it focuses on other kids in that school, and then as they're going on their adventure, the people with 11 are going on their adventure, and they pass through the hallways and doing their thing. That's
Yeah.
something that I wish they would have done, but they didn't. But still, I still love Stranger Things. But Trick or Treat is definitely a movie that I recommend checking out if you're a horror fan as well.
Well, I will.
All
Yeah.
right.
Maybe this is the year finally. Maybe I'll do it.
All right. So, so anyways, Josh, where can everybody follow you at and all that other good stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at JP Raynor. That's JPRAYNOR, as well as at Movie Blog Merc. That is the Twitter page for my site, Merc with a Movie Blog. So if you want to hear me do some trailer reactions or see some of our other shows, we do a How I Met Your Mother show over there as well, and we have a Marvel show over there, and I'm going to be doing some more like film reviews and stuff. And I guess I got some stuff in the works. So definitely join me there, and I'm going to be doing some writing as well, getting back into my actual written reviews on my site, mercwithmovieblog.com. So check me out there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And guys, like I said, next week I have A Town reviews coming back with me. We're gonna do a Trick or Treat review at 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern, and we're gonna be doing that. And then before that, at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, I'm gonna be interviewing the directors and actors of Punch Drunk. This was actually an Indie Holly's Shorts Film Festival movie that I reviewed, and they're actually coming on next week. And Beth from a podcast that she does is going to be joining me because she actually joined me for that review. So you guys can want to check that out next Monday. Of course, Friday we have some other stuff coming out. You guys just have to be patient on what that is. But I promise you, it's going to be well worth it because it's also going to be part of our Scream on Screen movie reviews for horror movies. So, you guys have that coming out. So, if you guys want to, go on and follow me underneath Movie Lovers, TV Lovers Unite over there on Facebook, underneath the same brand name on Pinterest, and on Instagram as well. Then, of course, if you guys want an audio only podcast episode of our show, you can get that where your major podcasts are found. Then, of course, guys, go on ahead, go over to Good Pods. Good Pods is a great place where it's social media for podcasters or people that love podcasts, and they have an easy play button that's really smooth and easy to operate. Also, too, you can rate our individual shows, tell us what you think about those shows, and things like that. And tell us if you liked it. Tell us what you didn't like about it and stuff like that. And also, too, it gives us rankings of each genre that we're actually a part of. So go ahead, check that out on Good Pods. And then, of course, you guys can go on ahead and donate to the page. How do you do that? Just go ahead, go to gofundme.com/movie lovers podcast. And I also teamed up with Two Blur Girls podcast for a charity with St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So all the proceeds that go into it goes over to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. All you have to do is buy a Sensi. You buy a Sensi, all proceeds go over to the children of St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Then, of course, you guys can go on and follow me on TikTok underneath Movie Lovers Unit 001. And then, of course, you guys can go on ahead, follow me underneath Movie Lovers Unit on Twitter as well. If you're a sponsor or would like to be on the show, just go on ahead and reach out to me at movieloversunite@gmail.com. And that's everywhere you can reach me at. And thank you again, Josh, for reviewing this film with me. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
I had a
Thanks for
blast
having me
doing
on.
this. You're welcome. It's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
The
been a
last one was
year.
Secret Window, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We did Secret
Yeah.
Window together. At that time, it was just an
Another
audio
Stephen
podcast.
King right there.
Right. That's kind of ironic how that plays out. So,
Yeah.
well, guys, I just want to say thank you again for everybody that watched. And always until next time, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. I can't wait to do this again. And bye.